We have secured Venezuela. We're going after Cuba now.
You haven't secured Venezuela. I'm sorry, you have not secured Venezuela. It's the same regime. It's just a different person in charge.
All right, let's get into this, because what you're about to see is a perfect example of confidence meeting reality, and reality winning. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In this clip, a MAGA-aligned voice steps in with a bold claim, but it doesn't take long before Victoria Derbyshire calmly steps in and brings the conversation back to facts. No shouting, no chaos, just precise, direct pushback that completely resets the narrative. Watch closely, because moments like this show the difference between talking points and actual journalism.
Okay, let's bring in Republican strategist Angie Wong. I mean, can you help us? What do you think President Trump's next move is?
Well, I don't believe that President Trump is an imperialist. I think he definitely wants to make a deal here. And as your speakers have said, he is the art of the deal president, and he has long been known to throw out the most extreme, most outrageous deals just to see what everyone's reactions will be and who's going to be pushing back. And in this case, he's seen almost everyone in the EU push back on this.
And forgive me, Angie Wong, he may also have seen President Putin be absolutely delighted about what's going on, because it potentially is a split between the US and its allies in NATO and in Europe. The only person happy at the moment is Vladimir Putin.
Well, he could be seeing it that way, or he could be seeing it as Putin getting isolated. Remember all the other geopolitical movements that have been made in the last few weeks. We have secured Venezuela. We're going after Cuba now.
You haven't secured Venezuela. I'm sorry, you have not secured Venezuela. It's the same regime. It's just a different person in charge.
And the Trump administration is all over the former vice president, now interim president there. So there's been a lot of movement. It could very well be, at the end of the day, when the historians write this book, that we are actually trying to isolate Putin and cut off any sort of money pipelines, any sort of trade pipelines. Remember, all of this deal, yes, we're talking about rare earth minerals, we're talking about national security for the U.S., but we're also talking about the Polar Silk Road. If the U.S. can control that shipping lane, along with the Panama Canal, we essentially then can control the Western Hemisphere as far as trade and shipping goes. That is
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to ask you, why do you think President Trump wants to own Greenland when you know you've got this treaty, the 1951 defence treaty between Greenland/Denmark and the US? It allows you to deploy thousands more US troops there, to build more bases. During the Cold War, there were something like 15,000 US troops there. There's now about 200. Why do you have to actually own it? Why can't you work with them to send a load more US troops?
Well, the messaging here is that President Trump wants to build the Golden Dome, which is a $175 billion project, very similar to what Israel has. And he needs Greenland and the seas around it to do so. Now, it's not impossible. It's never been heard of before that we do annex and purchase lands. We did that with Alaska. We did that with the Louisiana Purchase, the Mexican secession, and other places. So this is part of that. But we're not going in with troops. That's a very far-fetched idea that we would go in with military force. I think President Trump really does want to make a deal.
Just one more thought. Donald Trump said in that exchange with Norway's Prime Minister he wants complete and total control of Greenland. If he can threaten a NATO ally to surrender territory, and other allies that if they don't come to a deal, tariffs will be imposed upon them, does that mean NATO is effectively dead?
I don't think I think there's a lot of pressuring, there's a lot of positioning right now. Even the U.S. senators have come out over the weekend to tell President Trump, if you invade Greenland with military force, you will be impeached. So he is feeling the pressure from everybody right now. And
that's interesting. Sorry, Angie, I'm just because one of our guests is agreeing with that. And Lord.
And this is where the whole narrative really starts to fall apart. Because every time you see these political voices come onto international platforms, especially UK media, there's this pattern. Big, confident claims, but very little grounding in reality. Saying the US has secured Venezuela sounds bold, but the facts tell a very different story. Yes, Nicolás Maduro may be out of the picture, but the system he built, still very much intact. The same inner circle, the same power structure, the same machinery of control didn't just disappear overnight. Analysts and reports have made it clear. Leadership may have shifted, but the regime itself hasn't truly gone anywhere. And that's exactly the point Victoria Derbyshire was driving home. Calm, direct, and rooted in reality, cutting straight through the spin. Because when you strip away the talking points, what you're left with is a much more complicated and, frankly, unstable situation. Power hasn't been reset, it's been reshuffled. And in environments like that, uncertainty grows, not control. That's why moments like this matter. Not because they're dramatic, but because they expose the gap between political messaging and what's actually happening on the ground. Let me know what you think about this exchange.